Welcome to the Museum Learning Hub's Virtual Exhibitions Technical Workshop 1, Strategies, Project Workflow, and Efficient Design. Brought to you by the Digital Empowerment Project, a nationwide initiative organized by the 6 U.S. Regional Museums Associations and dedicated to providing free, self-paced training for resources for all small museums. Our inaugural series of online trainings focuses on digital media and technology topics and is made possible by funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. My name is Justin Jakovac. I am the Executive Director of the Mountain Plains Museums Association, and I'm your host for today's program. My pronouns are he, him. I am a white middle-aged male. My hair is brown and styled in a side part comb over. I have a mustache and goatee. I'm wearing a blue button-down shirt. In the background, there's a gray wall with a teal poster from a 1982 Smithsonian exhibition. Virtual meetings, when digital spaces may substitute for our physical sense of place, it is important to reflect on the land that we each occupy and honor the indigenous people who have called it home. I am speaking to you from my office in Colorado Springs, Colorado, which includes the historic homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute peoples. Wherever we are each located, let us acknowledge indigenous nations as living communities. We at the Digital Empowerment Project recognize that our organizations and those of our members were founded within a colonizing society which perpetuated the exclusions and erasures of many Native peoples throughout the United States and beyond. We ask you to reflect on the place where you reside and work, and to respect the diversity of cultures and experiences that form the richness of our world and our profession. Thank you. And now for a few program notes before we introduce our expert. I'd like to acknowledge today's ASL interpreters and let you know that captioning for this program is embedded in a box just below the YouTube player on our website with controls to adjust your experience. The best way to continuously refine our craft is to listen to our attendees. So we ask that you share your candid feedback with us. Following today's program, you will be sent a link to a satisfaction survey. Sharing your experience through the survey will only take a few minutes and will greatly improve our work. During today's program, we will address as many of your questions as time allows. However, sometimes we are unable to answer all of the questions, and frequently questions arise after reflecting on a program. So we've set up an online community forum for raising questions, posting answers, and connecting with your fellow museum practitioners on our website. If you are looking for help in between programs, please visit the forum, create a login, and post your questions. A member of our community or one of the student technology fellows will get back to you. Lastly, please follow us on social media to be aware of future programs. Links will be posted in the chat. And now it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter. Dr. Rene Cepeda is an independent art historian and curator specializing in new media art. He is the author of the Manual for Curation and Interactive New Media Art and the co-editor of the Game Arts Curators Kit. The Game Arts Curators Kit. He has taught at UDLAP and currently teaches at UNARTE in Puebla, Mexico. His research interests include interaction and exhibition design, new media art, digital performance, and art video games. Let's give Rene a warm welcome.
Hi, very nice to meet here. My name is Rene Garcia, Rene Cepeda, as I've been introduced. I am an independent curator, researcher, and my background is in museum studies, in exhibition design, in curation, and eventually I turned all that into what I'm doing right now, which is virtual exhibitions, new media art, and how both are very much tied together. Pretty much my introduction is that I am a cis male. I'm 38. I'm light-skinned. My hair is dark brown. I live in Puebla, Mexico currently. Puebla is a city that was created specifically for Spanish colonizers, but it's located in a place that was according to documentation, as non-native relevant. It basically means that there were no native people in the location, there were no native significant sites in it, and in effect what this meant was that it was created to create a Spanish area, like a completely safe zone for Spanish colonizers. Anyhow, my pronouns are he, him for now. And let's move on. First, I wanted to make a little disclaimer. All these workflow ideas can be adapted. Like, you don't have to do everything that I tell you. Every single museum is different. There's museums that have an exhibition design team. Some don't. Sometimes the curator does everything. So obviously take as much as you can from this and adapt it to your needs, okay? So first of all, let's be clear what will be covered in this talk. So first of all, why do a virtual exhibition? Why are you doing this? Is it because you want to show off a new collection? Is it because you feel like you have to do it? Those are the kind of things that we will be discussing. Then we have choosing a format. Will it be a website? Will it be a 3D space? What will it be? Then determining investment. What do you have? What do you need, basically? Then the philosophical implications of taking exhibitions into the virtual space. And finally, a suggested workflow of what I think, or what has worked for me. As a parenthesis, I have been involved in institutions from very small local museums to very large international ones. And this has given me a way of realizing what can be done, what can't be done, but also that the workflows are not that different. What is different is the scope, okay? So what won't be covered is asset generation. That will be covered and has been covered in other Museum Hub courses. Platform development, that's what will be covered in next week. And that is how to keep the sites running and everything going on. That is more of an IT thing. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about why do a virtual exhibition. And there's many, many reasons you can do one. For example, Identidad.exe is an exhibition I did with Mexican artists about new media art in the pandemic. And one of the things we wanted is to be able to reach international individuals. One of the things is this is in Mexico. Not many people come to Puebla to see new media art. So that gave us reach, but it was a question of costs. This exhibition done in WordPress was very, very, very cheap. It was about $40. However, had done this physically, I would have required an incredible amount of hardware. So sometimes it's about reach. It can also be about costs. Then we have the suitability of the objects. This image you can see here is an exhibition I planned called Poppy.museum for online artist Poppy. And in this exhibition, you can see YouTube videos. Then there's the image of Baphomet, which is a reference to the music video. But you can also see, like, because of how Poppy works, everything is online and social media. So what I've been trying to do is present the things in the most adequate manner. It was a way to bring the physical to the virtual because it coincided with what Poppy was doing at the time. Another example is accessibility. In the case of the Museum of the World, it is also reach, but it's also the fact that most of us don't have access to all these objects. They're either in collections, they're held in places that most people cannot access. Like the Global South has no access to this. So it is a way to bring the British Museum to the people. And it's also a very interesting website. It's a very simple exhibition, but it's also very visually attractive, although it looks like simple dots. Then this one is leveraging a digital collection. In this case, is the NC State University Libraries. They had done their collection. They had a lot of digitalization efforts for their architectural collection, and they wanted a way to show it. And so therefore, they created this exhibition of their contents. The next one is prompting a new digitalization effort. Basically, you can use the idea of exhibitions as a way to start your digitalization efforts. So you can say, well, this is not just going to sit there and not going to have any use. We can actually turn it into something that people will want to see. In this case, recreations of Roman spaces, okay? So those are the basic ideas of why do an exhibition. In the end, what you have to ask yourself is my material suitable? How is it suitable? Is it going to be a simple web page? Do I have the resources to do something more complicated? And do I have the knowledge? Okay, and that's what we're going to cover next. So first of all, where do I put it? What kind of exhibition formats are there? So these are the basic ones: social media art galleries, web pages, pre-made virtual spaces, virtual tours or virtual spaces, and this includes street view galleries, 3D spaces. In 3D spaces, I encapsulate everything from Minecraft to Second Life, which are game engines, to the Unreal Engine, which originally was a game engine, but now it's used as a tool for so many things. It's very simple to use. The Poppy example that we saw in the beginning, that was done in Unreal Engine. And then we have VR spaces, which can derive from the former ones. And finally, augmented reality or AR. Okay. Now I'm going to cover some of the pros and cons. So the first is social media. For example, this is Maya Contemporary. This is an art gallery in Mexico. They do have a physical space, but they also do their exhibitions online, and they just exploit the nature of Instagram. What as you can see, you can click on the paintings and the pictures, and you can get the description of them, and you can keep going until you reach the end of the exhibition. This is very useful for static things, for example. So paintings, some video art can work, but it depends on the time, like the playtime of the object. But it's very limited in what you can do with it. Like you can't customize it. You can't add pop-ups if you want or anything else like that. However, it's very simple. It has incredible reach, and it's also very cheap. The traditional sites, so things like First Ladies of the United States. This is an exhibition. I believe it's the Smithsonian. This is an exhibition that collects paintings of the first ladies and tells you about their history. Again, it's simple. It's not as simple as social media. It's not as simple as Instagram or, let's say, TikTok, although TikTok would be better for performances. The advantage that this has is that you can add metadata. Basically, you can add extra details. So if you click on any of the paintings, it will take you to an explanation of who the first lady was, and then extra articles and information on each one of them. So that's one of the advantages of web pages. Actually, web pages can contain any of the others within themselves. It just depends on the level of complexity. Then we have the pre-made or custom, pre-made exhibition spaces, sorry. In this case, there's many services. This is one exhibit, and what they do is that they give you a space for a certain amount of money for a certain amount of time, and you can then determine like how much you want to pay in terms of size and everything else. The advantage this has is that you basically just add your paintings or your images. It's more suited for art. However, it has a few disadvantages. And those disadvantages is that it's very limited to what they already have done. The media you can show, some of them won't support video, sculptures out of the options. But it's a simple way. If you have something that's on paper, it's very easy to translate. So photography, paintings, posters, anything like that can be shown very easily in these spaces. And it saves you money in the long run. Then we have what is essentially a street view of a gallery. These ones can still be done, but it's basically you take your physical space and you scan it, you photograph it in 360 degrees, and then you will put it on a computer. There's software for this, and it will turn it into this navigable space. The problem, well, the good thing about this is that you literally take your physical exhibition and it can be navigated as if the person was there. The problem is it has very limited interaction. In some cases, you can click on the paintings and you get details. That's what Google Art Project does, which is in this case what it's been done. But not all of them. Like if you don't have the money to do it in their system, not all of them are going to allow you to do these things. But it's very nice if you already have something done and you want to show it, especially with the pandemic. This might be a good idea for some of you. Then we have the virtual spaces. Again, like I mentioned, these places were made by me in Unreal Engine. And it's literally a proposal for an exhibition that was going to be physical and then later became a online thing. It never took off. That's why some of the things are placeholders, like the labeling system or the red cross here in the middle of the screen. This is a prototype, but in the end, I can just get the funding and convince the artist and turn it into a full-on space. And this space can be downloaded from online. It can also be put on a web page and made to run in there. It's complicated, but it can be done. It can also be put in a computer in an exhibition space afterwards when you're done, and it's still an exhibition that exists. And more importantly, it can also be turned into a VR experience. So simply navigating with a helmet, it's very translatable. That's one of the advantages of Unreal Engine, is that you basically just tell it, make it VR, make it a 3D space, make it for iPhone or iPad, and upload it on the App Store. That's one of the things that I really like. And it's not as complicated to do unless you start getting into scripting. So it shouldn't be a problem for most. And then this one is tricky because it looks like a 3D space, but in actuality, this is my living room, and the art is being overlaid on top of it. As you can see my battery and everything in there. This is literally me looking through the phone, and this is what appears. But in reality, if I move, I may bump into a chair or a table. This is a very extreme example of how you can overlay an exhibition. So you create a virtual space, the system scans it, and then it lets you interact and move around, get closer to the paintings as if you were there. Obviously, it may be difficult because if you want to go down the aisle, you have to be able to go down an aisle. If it's not there, you will have someone bumping into something if they're not careful. However, you can also do it without the extra 3D stuff and just map it to walls and the floor and things. There's a very an app called Fourth Wall app, which does this. And it literally, you can take a sculpture, put it on the software, and it will appear in the person's living room, and they can move around it and see what it looks like from all angles. They can enlarge it and shorten it. There's so many things that you can exploit with an AR app. Now we're gonna wait for a little second while I get a drink. Okay. So now that we've covered which one you can choose, we're going to talk a little bit of what before you begin, what you need to consider. So first of all, if you have an IT person, contact them and make them a permanent part of your team. Unlike other types of exhibitions, IT will be very helpful because they can tell you what can be done in-house, what can't be done and must be commissioned. They may even have ideas of how to present. And I've had this happen where I had this idea specifically for the Poppy prototype, and talking to an IT person I knew, and they were like, well, we can do this instead. And if you want to do it physically, it can also be done. So it was this feedback of things that I didn't know the technology could do. So it's very, very useful to have an IT person with you. And they also can help you alongside with your conservation team, if you have one, to choose the works, because IT will tell you, okay, no, we cannot put this on a web page that easily, or no, this will not work because we don't have a 3D asset yet and it's going to cost us, or yeah, we have this, we can actually put it in here. It's not always about what can't be done, but also what is possible, right? Then you will need contractors in some cases, depending on, again, your organization, what you already have and what you need. So for example, scanning. You may need to scan paintings, photographs, 3D scanning, sculptures, objects, artifacts of all kinds. You will need 3D and 2D design. So for example, if you're going for the 3D spaces like this one, you'll need someone with knowledge to do this. It may not be that difficult. It may be something you can do, but you have to account for it. 2D design, it includes website design, graphics, labeling, all the same things that you need for a traditional exhibition. Again, if you can do it, you can cut that cost. Asset generation, again, it's part of the scanning and everything else, but it also includes generating wallpapers for the walls you're using, or generating the labels, the signs, a tea table if that's what you need for your space, all those kind of things. And finally, environmental artists, that's a typo. which are people that can lay down everything. Again, it can be the same person. A lot of these things can be done by the same person, but you have to know what's possible. Okay. Then you have to look. You have your works or your wish list of what you want to show. You need to determine what has been generated and what will have to be generated, because that will influence your budget. Maybe you decide to take it out. Maybe you decide to keep it in, right? And then you move on with your work selection. And when you do this, again, keep in mind all the things that have been mentioned. Ideally, you want to use things you already have done, unless you're using it as a way to generate new assets, and maybe because of funding, which we will cover in a bit. So that's before you begin. Once you have the answers to all of these things, that's when you can move forward. Funding is a very interesting thing that can be done. For example, you can take donations from your patrons, or you can even start a Kickstarter. For example, the Marina Abramovich Institute was funded, even though it never pulled through, but that was for political reasons. It was funded through Kickstarter. So you can kickstart an exhibition, an online exhibition, make your case, create your Kickstarter page, avoid GoFundMe, because nobody trusts it, because it's an open goal. And if you don't meet the goal, they will keep, you get to keep the money, but it makes people hesitant about it. Kickstarter is more reputable. Anyhow, so this can help you find funds. But there's also other things. For example, for virtual exhibition grants, the Char Foundation, I found, had last year a grant for creating digital exhibitions, particularly of heritage spaces. So there's many more, obviously. I don't know them all, and since my work right now hasn't gone in that way, and I'm not in the US, I haven't been able to find. But there's also a collection digitalization grant can also be used, because again, as I said, well, you can put as an impact factor that you will be creating exhibitions with these things. So for example, the digitizing hidden collections and archives, again, it specializes in small museums that want to digitize their very niche and specialist collections. And again, they want you to make exhibitions out of those things. So these are some of the ways that you can get funding. Of course, you can, if you have already an exhibition fund, it can be used, because otherwise it's just sitting there. Now, let's go to philosophical implications. In this case, it's how the work changes, how its meaning can be different when you put it online rather than in a physical space. So first of all, it separates art or heritage from the institution, meaning that people don't see the museum. So it might be more accessible to some that feel museums are boring or are too institutional, too powerful. In this way, people can maybe be more open to things. It's also because it's a website, it becomes easier for someone to move around and say, well, instead of having to go through all the effort of, I have to go to a museum, I just open a webpage. I can look at this while I'm having lunch or whatever. So that is very important, that you're separating your work from the institution to a degree. Obviously, you have your branding and things, they're still there, but conceptually, it's a little bit different. Another possibility, although it requires a lot of programming, is the reactivation of interaction. So this works specifically in the art world. For example, works like Elio Itisica, which is a Brazilian artist that made a lot of artworks. I will write the name if you want in the comments, because it's a very difficult name to spell. But this artist, what he does is works that were supposed to be touched, open, interacted with, and now they're in museums locked behind crystal cases. And a lot of the meaning is lost. When you reactivate it, people can understand again what's going on with the work, returning it to its original meaning. It also means that your objects don't have to get degraded. If you have something like an apple press in terms of heritage, you can make people like a mini game in your space and have people pick up the apple, put it in, virtually pick up the apple, put it in the press, turn the cranks, get everything to move down and see the function, even if they don't get apple juice at the end of it. the interaction is there, and it helps people get together more with their heritage. Returning context to some works, again, you can take, well, generally when we see something in a museum, it's decontextualized, right? So unless you're a completely on-site museum where you have like recreations like, I don't know, colonial Williamsburg, you will not have the same feeling for an object. So if you can take and play and create a recreation of a space and putting all the tools as they're supposed to be used, or the art where it was supposed to be, for example, particularly in religious art, if we consider icons, they're supposed to be in certain positions, certain places. When they're taken out of that and placed in a gallery in, say, the Met or the Getty or something like that, they lose that meaning. And you can return that either through 3D recreations or even just the setting of the exhibition itself. Then we have immateriality. One of the very good things about media art, and particularly anything digital, is that it's immaterial. So you don't have to worry about the physicality of it. You don't have to worry with how much weight does it fit through the doors, right? And one of the things is that you can break reality. Meaning, when you do a recreation of a 3D space, you don't have to follow the rules of the world, or of our world. Meaning, I can fly around, say, an Inuit totem pole. I can look around a French church, right? I can go underground. I can lift the object and flip it, something that is unthinkable in a museum. So all these things are things that you have to keep in mind when you're designing. You don't have to follow the rules of the real world or the museum itself. Okay, there was an exhibition I saw that was really jarring because it was one, but it had velvet ropes around the object. And that's just ridiculous. Why have velvet ropes? Like, okay, I get wanting to redo the feeling of the museum, but at the same time, it's enforcing barriers that should not be there. Okay. Then we have time, and this is so very simple, so very complex. There's works, particularly in new media, that take decades to take place. They will be running until we die. There's works of art that are so complex, so many paths, so many options to explore, that people will not have the time and institution to witness it. In the virtual world, when you can leave it and pick it up later, it's absolutely doable. The other way it goes is that you can have video art that you could not show. You can have videos of things that usually take too long, and people will be more willing to watch it because they're at their homes. And then there's this whole thing about not being limited by the very time of the world. Like, you don't have to go to a museum between 11 and 5 p.m. You can go there at 3 a.m. It's a very liberating thing for a lot of people. Finally, space and site specificity. We generally think that because things are immaterial in the virtual world, they don't have specific sites. That is not true, and you have to keep an eye for that. So what I mean by site specificity is not exactly, hold on a second. It's not exactly that you have to have a physical space. But for example, a work that depends on Twitter has site specificity. It depends on Twitter and its API to run. There's a work by artist Pippin Barr that runs on New York Time. And if you visit the video game art that he made, if you go outside of New York opening times for the MoMA Museum, you cannot go in and see the art. This is because he has an interest in the relationship between time and the virtual space, but at the same time, it highlights things. Like you can do this on purpose, or you can overcome those limits. It's up to you, but you have to keep it in mind. Also, site specificity includes things like the Reporters Without Borders library. For example, this thing exists in Minecraft. You have to be in Minecraft. You have to have the tools to access Minecraft to see and read everything that's in that library. Okay, if I do my exhibition in Second Life, my people have to be able to go to Second Life. They have to have a computer that allows them access to this site, this virtual site. So all those things have to be taken into account. Like, will your tools are too niche? Yes, but do they offer you an advantage or not? And that also will help you decide what is acceptable and what is not, depending on the aims of your exhibition. Next one. So now I'm gonna go with the workflow, which is what I've done before. This is, again, this occurs at the same time as your normal workflow for an exhibition design. So you try to integrate it and modify it as you can. Again, not everything can be done by everyone. Some of these things you will skip. But develop a team if you can. Say, get an IT people, get education involved, get exhibitions involved, get marketing. Marketing is also useful beyond what they normally are, because they also have knowledge of social media and digital tools that can help you develop better exhibitions. Okay? Then once you have your team, you start with your work selection. That's the traditional thing you do. Just keep in mind everything that we talked about, choosing and what has to be developed, what is already developed, and all those things. And then you do your research. That's just basic curatorial work. You know how to do it. Then we go to stage 2. And in stage 2, this is where we select the platform. Do we want to do AR, VR? That's going to be determined, again, by the work selection. Then you start contacting artists or institutions if you need any kind of loans or permissions. Artists, obviously, if you're an art museum, if you're a heritage, well, just skip this, obviously. Then we have request works if you need them, secure media rights. In some cases, media artists in particular will appropriate things. And well, that's fine by them. Sometimes museums need to be sure that they have the proper media rights to show the work online. And then you start on your platform, and then of no return. Once you're here, you can't go back and say, I want to change it from a VR to from a web page to a VR. Okay. Generally, the rule is you can go back, but you cannot go up. Okay. So let me go back to the media thing. I can explain this. Okay. So here we are. So you can go from AR, VR, 3D, and Street View down to pre-made virtual spaces or to web pages. Generally, some sacrifices will have to be made. So for example, if you have sculptures, you cannot really use them in pre-made virtual spaces, but you can use them on a web page. It's more about figuring out what to do. However, if you had the idea of making a web page and then halfway through you decide to do a 3D space, you're going to run into costs. You're going to run into issues of finding people. You're going to delay your progress for about a year. So be very careful when you start developing. And by developing, I mean get your technology ready. This is not putting things into the exhibition. This is just making sure that your web page opens, that your technology, your say WordPress is working properly, that it has the right address, that you have your site .com or .edu, whatever you're using. Make sure that that's what developing the platform. Make sure that it's ready to have things poured into it. Then you generate your assets. Start like this can be actually done at the same time. Generating assets. Make sure you have your graphics, your objects, everything ready to be put into your exhibition space. Then you develop the exhibition space. This is the part that's more aesthetic. So this is where if you're doing a web page, we'll choose your colors, your fonts, your flow diagram, all these kind of things. This is not yet putting things in. It's basically it's the equivalent of painting the walls, cleaning the space, finding where your light sockets are, all those kind of things. And then we move to stage 3. This is where you should theoretically already be done with everything else that's been discussed. This is where you will say, okay, we're going to put this here. We're going to put these works in this order. We're going to have so many web pages, and this one's going to go here and go back. Obviously, you can go back and fix things, but try and have everything as ready as you can. You also will generate your metadata and your hyperlinks. Again, it's optional, but it's really one of the strengths of the platforms that you can create. You can say, put a web page where you show your, I don't know, Norwegian Moravian artifacts in Wisconsin. and you make a link that takes you to a definition of what Moravian is, or why they're Norwegian even though they're in Wisconsin, things like that. Then plan your activities. Zoom tours of 3D spaces and web pages can be done. It's very simple. The problem with Zoom is that you have to invite the people. There's a lot of there's more interaction, yes, but at the same time, it's more limited. This can be very good when you want to do something with like a VIP team or a group of people. You can take your stakeholders, your museum, your committees, all kind of things like that. All those people, you can show them through Zoom. It's more private. If you want to do something public facing, I would recommend a live stream. Museum Hub also has an explanation of how to do live streams. I recommend you watch that. But the thing is, with live stream, everybody can look at it if you do the proper social media, and people can access it. It's exactly how you're doing it right now. So you can put it on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram even, and it gives you a lot of access. Curator talks, where you can have a curator sit. It can also be part of a live stream where the curator can take answers like a Q&A, and why did you choose this? And then the curator can go open a relevant thing or point out things, or the curator can simply talk about their interest in creating this space or exhibition. And then figure out other modes of engagement. There's things that I haven't thought of. I'm pretty sure that you have creative people, or you yourself are a very creative person and can think of new ways of creating interaction and activities that will not let the website be just a static thing, or the exhibition just be what it is, okay? And then, for example, for the extra modes of engagement, this is not possible for everyone, but with 3D printing, it can be done. This little guy, this is a jade elephant from Egypt. Sainsbury for visual in the UK, and it's a favorite of everyone. I studied in this museum, and everybody, the community is very enamored with this little hippopotamus. And the museum has not exploited this. How could this be turned into an activity or something that becomes engagement? Well, the museum could do 3D printing using their digitalization efforts to create 3D printed versions of the elephant. You can download the file or buy the printed animal. You could generate plushies. You could even create something that's very interesting, which is have your shop take things from the collection, and maybe because this is digital, people can make like a wish list or a shopping list, and they click, I want to get a memento of this or a memory of this. And at the end of the exhibition, you can say, hey, go to a store, and everything that they liked, it can be turned, like could say, well, you can get a t-shirt of this painting, or you can get a print, or you can get a 3D printed version of this jewelry. I actually know of jewelry makers that will make historical recreations of your products. So you could talk to them, and through the website, just generate this synergy that will let you to, it's horrible, but monetize your collection, which is something that right now we're struggling with as institutions. So the idea is be creative with what you have and exploit the fact that it's 3D scanned or digitized in one way or another. Okay, now I want to share with you a few more resources. So first of all, my own thing, which is the Manual for the Creation and Display of Interactive New Media Art. There should be a link in the comments. This is specifically for new media art. However, many of the things in there can be used by Heritage, because I actually derived this from one of my dissertations in Heritage. Then exhibit.com, that's the exhibition, pre-made exhibition spaces that I mentioned. Unreal Engine, which is a 3D engine you can use. Unity is the competing version of Unreal Engine. Both are very friendly. Unreal Engine is super friendly towards creators, particularly you don't pay a licensing fee unless you make $1 million, which never gonna happen. And then we have the Fourth Wall app, which is a VR app. You can talk to them and integrate your works or things like that into their app, or they can help you find other solutions. So those are just a few resources. Will be in the forums like that were mentioned in the beginning. So I can help, if you have any questions beyond today, I can answer them there. So I want to thank you for watching, taking time to listen to this. And if you want to get in touch with me, that's my email and my professional website. You can get in touch with me for that. I do consulting, I do teaching, and other things that I can help you, or just help you with, and my social media. I don't have an Instagram, sorry, but I couldn't take out it's a pre-made slide. Anyhow, thank you for watching, and I think we're going to go to questions now, I believe.
Rene, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I do have a few questions for you. So yeah, thanks for such a comprehensive discussion here. Have you ever heard of any WordPress plugins that are appropriate for or good for virtual exhibitions?
I really haven't gotten involved with WordPress that much. I just use what it is, what it has, what's available, and I do a little bit of coding, so I generally just fix things myself.
Great. Let me see. You might have covered this, but I have a general question. The basic skills and equipment that are needed to get a virtual exhibition started?
Well, it depends on the mode you want to go in. So, for example, the most basic is just basic social media knowledge. If you want to do something like Instagram or Twitter, all you need is a phone, the images you want, and just general knowledge of how to use the thing. However, website design experience may be useful. The next one, right, is going to be about precisely this very thing and integrating into WordPress and creating exhibitions in WordPress. So that is another option. For pre-made virtual spaces, you really don't need any experience. You just have to get in touch, explain what you submit. For virtual tours and virtual spaces, it depends. Minecraft, you just need to know how to use Minecraft. I'm pretty sure some of you have children that can teach you how to do marvelous things. Minecraft is incredibly flexible. Second Life gets a little bit trickier. For that one, you do need to go and learn a little bit more, but everything is doable by yourself. Literally all of these, except Unreal Engine, can be done by anyone. Just go on YouTube and learn how to generate assets in Second Life. And I think that Second Life will be covered by, I'm sorry, I forgot her how to pronounce her name. The third presenter in this program.
I'll get that name in 1 second here. I can
Oh God. Yeah, I don't want to butcher her name. But anyway, so she's going to be teaching about that. And then finally, Unreal Engine. I personally learned how to use Unreal Engine in the period of half a year. It's not that difficult. They have a very good tutorial system by them, and it teaches you everything you need to learn. Literally, it's just being comfortable with the computer. You do need, for Unreal Engine, a very, very powerful computer. And we're talking, go looking for something like a gaming computer. Yep. So it has to have a very good graphics card. It has to have a lot of memory, and it has to have like a good display. You want at least 2 monitors for that. Well, that's a personal recommendation. I think that's pretty much. And VR and AR are derived from Unreal Engine, basically. But you can always just find. It's not as expensive as it seems to get someone to help you.
Awesome.
I think that's it.
Okay. That name you were looking for, Dr. Natrice Gaskins will present on August 26th, and we had a meeting where you all met. So yeah, I appreciate you giving a call out for that one. So two weeks from today is the one that will go into great detail on exhibition design in virtual environments.
And she's a master at it, so yeah, of course it's going to be fantastic. And going to webpage, that's again, forgot the pronunciation. I knew. The second one?
Yeah, sure. That's Adriel Lewis.
Adriel.
Yep. And that'll be next week.
Yeah, he will be doing like how to put something on WordPress. So I think you all will enjoy that. What else?
Great shout outs. Yeah, the next question is, from your experience, what's the best way to communicate with the various players in a virtual exhibition project? Do you have a preferred communication software or project management software?
Oh, Oh wow. Okay, well, you can use Slack. I think that's the
Slack.
industry standard by now,
Sure.
and it will let you share everything. But one of the things, and actually, I should have mentioned this. You want to have a way to keep virtual version control, especially if you're working with Unreal Engine or Unity. It has to be in a server that downloads everything and uploads it to your computer. So when you're changing things, you don't have mismatches with versions. That's very important. I can't recommend you one right now because they're different for every system. And sometimes if you're doing it yourself on your computer, you don't need it. But if you have two to three people working on it, you might have to think about that.
Great pointer. Great pointer. Okay. Let's see what the next question is. So what measures have you put in place to ensure that your virtual exhibitions are accessible to a variety of users? Does that factor into your strategy and design thinking? Is accessibility?
It does. It's just a matter of getting people actually can help you, because as someone that's not particularly in a disabled category, it's hard for me to think of these things in a way. But one of the simplest things is, well, first of all, make sure it's uh, readable by screen readers. So you have to make sure that all your images have captions. You have to make sure that all your objects are labeled. That's done in the background in WordPress, but it's very easy to do. It literally tells you alt text, and that's where you describe what the image is. And right now, the technology has gotten to a point that it almost runs itself. But for 3D spaces, you have to be careful because there's not much research. You can implement, say, things like filters for color blindness, but generally the adaptations for 3D spaces are done by the end user because you can't account for all of them. Generally, if someone 3D spaces, they generate their own troll interfaces. Other things you can do is make sure your fonts are readable. So there's things like Dyslexie, which is a font specifically made for dyslexia to not affect your reading skills. Um, I'm trying to think like out of the blue because I wasn't.
No, that's fine
But I
actually.
think that's good
Yeah.
recommendation.
I would do a self-referential point back to module 1 that we did for this same museum learning hub, and folks can find a lot of accessibility strategies that'll overlay into their website and that kind of thing. So
There you go.
we don't have to put you on the hot seat too much. We did 4 of those earlier in the year. But thank you for sharing your perspective on that. This may again bleed into some other categories. Is there a way to ensure your website and virtual exhibit are easily found by the public? Again, I
Okay.
reloaded, right?
So 3 things you can do. First of all, social media, market it, because that's one thing the museums don't do. Or I noticed that it's very poorly done. It's don't just exploit tags, exploit Zoom, exploit Instagram. One of the things that I've noticed is that all museum people still think that Facebook is relevant, and it's not. Like teenagers are like, you have a Facebook. So if you want to reach those publics, you need to have Instagram, TikTok. Okay, they communicate through them, and you have to learn that language. I don't know, maybe create a youth program where you can have someone that's like in their 16s, 17s that's interested in museum work, and have them, hey, you know what, go wild, let's do something with social media, help us promote. Obviously, keep an eye so it doesn't become inappropriate or things like that, but really, really use social media and try and not end up like that meme from what is it? Joe Pesci, I think it is. It's like, "Hello, fellow youths," and he's like, "No, Steve Buscemi."
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So try and avoid that. They smell that from miles, so be careful with that. But the other thing you can do is SEO, or search engine optimization, which is make sure you have keywords and important things in your exhibition. YouTube, I mean, Google doesn't like it, but what you can do is in white text hidden in the bottom of your webpage, just put every single word you can think. Make it invisible, but make it that it's in the code of the web page. It can't be a hidden comment though, because Google will ignore those. But if it's in the page itself, it will read it. And then just link everything back and forth. Link between your YouTube, your Facebook, your Instagram, everything. Make sure that you're linking everything together. So that's SEO, that's marketing, and the last one is just basic promoting in physical spaces, because that's also something that happens and we don't see it done. You can use QR codes, you can do posters, you can talk and put it in radio, or there's ways, but it has to be promoted if you're putting that much effort.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, what are some strategies and low-cost products to boost interactivity and ease the inclusion of physical objects?
Okay. Ooh. Well, the easiest thing I can think of is 3D views of objects. And there's something where you can take like a 3D. Well, it's even just photographs. You don't have to go like super fancy. You just take the object and photograph it from all angles. And then there's plugins for WordPress that will turn it into an image that you can just take and scroll around it. That will help you a lot. If you're doing 3D spaces and you have the ability to do it, just make it pick it up, like that you can pick it up and look around it. If not, just allow people to move around it, because that's the thing I was telling you, like velvet ropes in the virtual exhibition space make no sense, right? Or let people fly around the object, and all those kind of things. And if you can make actual interactable, like video game things, that's even better. If you want some examples of very good ways of doing that, get Assassin's Creed Odyssey, or maybe your kid already has it, and ask them to put it on the tour mode. And that will give you so many ideas. And they're doable. You just need someone. In that case, you will need someone to help you with the programming. But on web pages, you can do things like sliders, zooms, all those kind of things that will let you, you know, video the objects in a better way.
Great. That might dovetail with a general question that I'm seeing here, and I wonder, the question's phrased, do you ever need contract help? But I would probably rephrase that and say, what are the things that you outsource? And we've talked about a lot of things that can be done in-house. And what would be the things that kind of step beyond the boundary and make you want to bring in that extra contractual help,
Yes.
rather than maybe bringing it into your own skill set?
Okay, so for me, it would be someone that can do the programming in Unreal Engine, for example. That's something I can do it, but I would not be comfortable doing it professionally. I would ask someone, hey, I need you to generate blueprints for these things so I can do this, this, and this. You have to be very clear what you want, how you want it. But contractors, it's very easy to find someone. There's a lot of people that are doing video game degrees, video game programming degrees, and they don't have jobs. So you can find these people, and they will be super happy to help you. It's good for their CV. Obviously, pay them, but they will be very happy to help you, because it lets them get into the industry or just generate a business just from this. 3D design, 2D design, depending on how rushed I am, I will generally get a designer to help me with that. And if I don't have a collections team, obviously for generating assets, I would get a contractor to do it. And that's also mentioned in the prior workshops.
Sure.
But those are the people I would. But I can generate the space myself.
And I guess maybe a corollary to that, and I'll apologize if you've kind of covered this part of it, but for those of us who are a one-person or two-person operation, museum-wise, what types of programs would you suggest starting with? So, like, opposite of the last question, if we're not going to use a contractor, if we're going to learn it ourselves, where would you start?
Okay, so this really depends on your personal skills and willingness to learn.
Sure.
So, sorry. Social media, baby, easy, super easy. You can do it. Anyone can do it. Web pages, depending on how complex you want it and how interactive you want it, you can do it. WordPress, like even the basic one that's free, it's very flexible. Like Identidades Exe, the one I mentioned, which you can actually go to, this one. It's actually identidad.exe, but that's not the web address. I'll have to give you the proper one. That one, I did it myself in like a month. This one, the 3D spaces, I did them myself. So let's go back. Pre-made virtual spaces, you don't even need to know anything except uploading images. Virtual tours, street view galleries, that one I can't do. I know people that can do it, so I would actually get them. But if you can do it, go ahead. 3D spaces, Minecraft, super easy again. It just depends on how willing you are to add interaction, or you want to do a virtual space. Really recommend you check Reporters Without Frontiers for that one. Second Life is tricky, but it's all YouTube videos. You can learn it. Unreal Engine gets trickier the more things you want to add, but the very basic building that you can walk around and look at things, it's simple. You can learn to do that in a week. And VR Spaces is the same thing with Unreal. You just have to add like some things that are called actors, but it's literally drag and drop. And AR I'm not very familiar with. That one, it's more complex. That one I would get someone. So that's the least one I would recommend.
That's awesome. I really appreciate the feedback and the detailed instruction about kind of where to get started. I personally very much identify with the folks who are bootstrapping it themselves. So any final thoughts today, Rene, before we go into final housekeeping?
Well, no, I think I've covered pretty much what I wanted, but I'm always open for questions. I'm not going to charge you for basic questions. Like if you want to get in touch and discuss some of this or some recommendations, obviously I can do it. I'm really grateful for what you're doing. I think it's a very, very nice thing. And I think it will help museums become better, which is my goal in the end.
Wonderful. Thank you again. We appreciate you being here.
No, thank you.
Okay, and a few final notes here, everyone. Thank you for attending today's program. After the module, you'll see, after all of the modules are completed, you'll see the entire module present on our website, along with a complete toolkit of resources provided by our presenters. Please remember to visit the forum on our website and ask further questions. Follow us on social media to stay aware of future programs, and join us next week on August 19th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, for the second technical workshop. It'll center around web-based curatorial approaches, with the curator of digital and emerging practice at the Smithsonian and Asian American Center in Washington, D.C. That's Adriel Lewis that we mentioned a little while ago. So thank you again, everyone, for being here today. And please, again, complete the post-event satisfaction survey. Have a great week. See you next week.